Hey guys, and happy Friday. Welcome to our first ever The Inside Scoop Live for our Fund and Grow channel. So we're starting this out. This is going to be our first one, and I'm going to go dive into exactly what we're going to be doing moving forward. But first, I want to introduce our producer, Zach, who's over here on my side.
Hey, hello YouTube. Thrilled to embark on this new adventure together in the Fund and Grow channel.
Thank you, Zach. Zach's actually been with Fund and Grow for what, we're 11 years now, almost?
Who, since the dawn of time, when dinosaurs were walking around, it was Ari and I. But yeah, no, I'm the main content producer here. You might have seen me recently this week. I made my re-debut here on the channel. And as a matter of fact, I have it on good authority that our Vice President, Amanda, will be making an official debut as a YouTube content creator in the very near future. So keep your eyeballs peeled for that. In addition to the points and sort of the addressing of the channel and where we're going with this, we are also open to questions. So if there's any Q&A, any questions that you've got about credit or any of the videos that we've done recently, feel free to go into the comment section here. I've got my eyes on it, and we'll go to those questions as well. So I think I've eaten up enough time now, Amanda. I think it's back to you.
There's no time clock on this.
Oh,
You're good
okay.
to go. So yeah, no pressure. I'll be coming on the channel next week for a video for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. It's something that Ari asked me to step into. But so, the point of this call, we're calling a deeper look into how to grow your business. So looking at first quarter, kind of how to set things up. One of the things that we did in the last quarter was kind of looking at our YouTube channel, looking at how we can help entrepreneurs that want to see how we're growing, what trends we're seeing, basically everything we're doing. So when we looked at that, we decided that, doing a once a month live on the Inside Scoop would be a way for us to do that, but also kind of giving you answers to questions that you've had where we're seeing a trend of people asking questions on our channel throughout the month. We want to make sure we do all of that. So we are going to go live every month, third Friday of the month at 3 o'clock. Don't miss it. We'll always premiere it so you can remind yourself that it's happening. We also got a new schedule. Zach put that together for us so that Ari, or now Zach or I, will be able to get content out to you every week. So we're going to have the Wednesday at 4 p.m. will be our normal full video drop of whatever topic we're talking about. And then we will have Monday and Wednesday short format to kind of give you a little piece of a different video or a piece of a video coming up, depending on which way we're looking. And then as we grow, we're just going to keep adding more. We hope that, we can bring you content that you're learning and you love it, and everybody's winning in that. So one thing I wanted to do is, recapping 2022, right? So it was like a week ago, I had an all-call meeting with everybody within Fund and Grow and gave them some numbers that were really, exciting for them, I hope, and they were able to see all the work that they put in and what we were able to get back. So in 2022, we funded a total of $277 million. Like that's a lot of money. I don't know about you, Zach, but that's a lot of money. I'm really proud of that number. I mean, I'm hoping I can hit even more this year, that our team can get more. But on average, if you broke that down, we broke it down, it's all statistics, but it's $125,000 per client in 2022, but noting that some of them are only in their first round. So that means that the person who got 125 might end up getting even more in the next one. So that's a huge thing. So what would that do for you? Like, how do you use that funding? How would that help your business? Because we are here only to help you grow by giving you the funding you need. So that's kind of what our goal is on the channel, is to give you ways to grow and also give you that funding.
So, not to be resident old guy here, of back in my day when Fund and Grow was just a little business, we were lucky if we had brought up, 125,000 in a month for all of our clients combined.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're talking almost 15 years ago. We just were such a small operation and really trying to get off the ground. And one thing that I'll say about the current state of Fund and Grow is there are so many elements of this company that is a much more well-oiled machine. We've got a huge staff compared to, when we first got started, and there's so many things that we've figured out. Working with banks, working with credit, how credit functions for people. There's so much that we've figured out and learned, but that's not just some magic thing. That comes from a lot of checks and balances and really evaluating and reevaluating, okay, what's working, what's not working, what do we need to evolve with? And you mentioned at the top, really recapping 2022 and reevaluating where we are and where we want to go is why we've been able to grow the way that we have. And I think any business owner should be doing that. Even if you ended last year in the green and everything's great, you still want to reevaluate what brought you to the dance and figure out, can you make it even better in the next year?
Yeah, I mean, the one consistent thing in business is change, right? That's
Right.
the one thing you can always count on is that everything's changing, the market's changing, the economy's changing, the way that you have to reach people is always changing. 20 years ago, would we talk about like creating funny videos for TikTok? Like that wouldn't have been a topic. It's just crazy to see that you have to be ever evolving in anything you do in business. Like 2022 was a rough year for a lot of small businesses. There was a lot of things over the last few years that have really hit that small business bracket. We have really worked hard to be the bridge of being able to bridge the gap of getting those small businesses the funding they need to be able to survive through what has been going on the last few years. And I think 2022, we were still in it. We were all still in it. I think a lot of businesses saw a decline of revenue. I think a lot of them saw the economy doing some things, and no matter what that reasoning was, it's been an interesting, it was an interesting year. So one of those things, is marketing. Like, the ever-changing climate of how do you market? Who do you market? And who's your primary, customer that you're trying to reach? And how are you going to reach that person? And, with every, year that passes, your younger generations are coming. What are they doing? How do you target those people so they can be your next, client in your journey? And so it's figuring out how to market, but also, being able to be all over the place, like marketing across the board.
Well, one of the things that you and I had talked about on a previous discussion on one of our premium coaching calls was, 2020 was kind of the mass exodus. There was a lot of people because of kind of the world shutting down and working from home, a lot of people took it as an opportunity to like become an entrepreneur and work for themselves. And now we're 2 years after the fact, and we're starting to see what are the ramifications of that. What are the consequences of that job market changing so much? And so because of that, I think that's why businesses sometimes struggle in 2022, because there's still so much uncertainty, and real estate got crazy again, and all these other factors that are always sort of pressing down on business owners. And so you're absolutely right. It's the first month of every year is so important to set the stage and set the pace for what the rest of your year is going to look like.
Oh yeah, and that's never going to change. But I think right now it's more than ever. I think the last coaching call, because we have a monthly coaching call. If you aren't aware, it's private. It's not public. We'll talk about that in a second. But it was about the HR component of your business, whether you're big or small, it doesn't matter. HR is a huge thing, but finding quality staff and the market changing and everything to be able to market not only to customers but to employees, because we have to be able to have good staff. Otherwise, we can't function. It just doesn't work that way. There's some generational things in it. There's the technology piece of it. There's the educational piece of it, and there's that entrepreneur mindset that's been growing, which we obviously love because we're here to fund those entrepreneurs. We're here for that. But it also creates challenges in itself, in that. So kind of the first thing you got to look at every year is like, what's your plan?
Right.
So first quarter is where you should kind of plan the whole year out. You don't want to wait till the second quarter to plan your year. And actually you should probably start prior to that. So, we were started planning, in the last quarter for this quarter. So it's making sure, one of the things that that we had to do is, paid ads is a thing that a lot of businesses are using. A lot of businesses get all of their leads, all of their sales from paid ads, whether you're a product or service, doesn't matter. But sometimes you have to kind of pause, refresh, and relaunch. And that's something that we just did. Zach was involved in that quite a bit, where we had to pause everything, look at what our funnels looked like, look at everything from the ads, from the videos, from everything, and be able to see like what was working, what wasn't, refresh the entire thing, relaunch it, first of the year. So we just did that. And the biggest change was we are trying out the VSL model of virtual sales letter, of doing a little bit different. And we still have the webinar,
Right.
you have to have that. You need the whole piece to educate them on what we do. But it is interesting to see that's changing and changed for us. And, you've had to pivot with everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the huge things that we've found out in the last basically wrapping up 2022, we really made a focus on marketing. We made a focus on content in terms of what's working, what's not working. And the one thing that we keep running into that you and I have both heard 1,000 times already is, well, there's no set rules. Like, oh, well, what's the marketing strategy that works across the board? Well, there isn't one. Well, how do you go viral? These are all things that there's no concrete direction to go into. It just sort of happens. You keep producing and you keep creating and you keep advertising and maybe you'll get lightning in a bottle, but you just keep adjusting and so on and so forth. So to your point, when it came to marketing and PPC, pay-per-click, we, as a company, sat there and went, all right, we've made all these little adjustments throughout the year, and none of them have made a lick of difference. So let's put the whole thing on hold. Let's put the entire marketing PPC on hold and start fresh.
Yeah.
Which is scary. That's a scary thing. And, for business owners who are like, oh, am I the only one who's experiencing this? No, you're not. And it's a very scary thing. But after you've made these little adjustments here and there for so long, eventually, if it hasn't made a difference, you got to just put it on pause and relaunch with something new.
Well, and there's the whole, last quarter, first quarter, totally different marketing strategies. And, I think that it was just one of those things. I mean, fortunately for us, PPC isn't our sole source of things. It's a piece of the pie, but it is always a big decision to make those changes. But I think it's important to know that if you have to make some big changes, you're not the only one. This is a really interesting, area. One of the things that we try to do, I know Ari tries to do, is give you content that helps you. And as we see things, we're sharing it. If I can find that secret formula, I'm going to put it in place and then I'm going to share it, because why not? But nobody has it. There's no secret sauce to the best marketing across the board that you do for a service or a product. It doesn't really work that way. Everyone's a little bit different. Your target audience is different. Different times of the year breed different things. So it's just interesting to see all of that. So one of the things, what I'm going to be talking about in our private coaching call, which is actually right after this call, is going to be about preparing your business for this year, recovering from those post-holiday sales, because that's always a big push. And how do you recover and make your first quarter as big? I mean, that can be a lot of things. And then, entering the AI world in the marketing side and the sales side. So we're going to talk about that. We have premium coaching. It's something that we offer. If you don't know about it, you never heard of it, Zach's got the link in the description.
Yes.
As well as if you're interested in knowing what Fund&Grow does, if you don't know, if you landed here and you don't know what we do, there's a link down there to find that out. And it's interesting because we put together a coaching package. Coaching is hot, right? Everybody does coaching. But our coaching is for all entrepreneurs. It's for everybody. We're not looking at just one segment of people to coach to. We want to help you with everything. We have this pretty little guy that we put out every month. The team in-house, we produce this. We put all these thoughts into it, and we try to make it as versatile as possible. And then we have the coaching call every month where it's live. I'm on. Zach's on sometimes. Ari's on sometimes. Different people. We had our HR CPO on last month, and answering your questions live. We'll answer anything you got. Anything you have, we're going to answer for you. So that's something that we usually do as well. But we also have some questions that have come up, and this is something I want to do on the live, ongoing, is when you ask a question on our YouTube, you're going to get a response from us.
Right. We're usually Johnny on the spot about
Yeah, you're getting a
answering this.
response. My team's making sure they're on there. So we actually have a great, social media manager that handles that, and she's always looking and making sure your questions are answered. But sometimes we obviously are only going to give a piece of the answer. So, we want to dive in a little bit. So I pulled them up. And
well, actually, right
you
before
have them?
well, no, but right
ahead.
before you ask our
Yeah.
first question from our audience here, so the premium coaching that she was mentioning, that stemmed from just a necessity. Because in the early days, we would just be 100% focused on funding. We would be like, okay, we've worked our magic, we've contacted these banks, we got the client money, whew, all right, job done. And then little by little, we'd hear back from clients who would be like, okay, great, I have this funding. Realistically, what should I be doing with this?
What's next?
Or, okay, yes, I got the building that I needed, great. But now what do I do?
Yeah.
And they look to us as, somebody who kind of had our head on straight. And we're like, well, what did you guys do? How did you get here?
Yep.
I was following a content creator earlier today who mentioned there's a certain point where you realize that people are when you're doing something long enough, you realize there comes a point where people are no longer looking down at you, they're looking up to you. And so that's kind of what happened with Fund&Grow. And so because of that, we came up with this premium coaching idea to give as much, as Amanda said, all done in-house, give as much information and expertise and talk to experts as we can to really help small business owners who don't have a place to turn to. They're like, okay, I have a place, I'm doing real estate, I'm doing e-commerce, whatever. Where do I go from here? How do I do marketing? How do I need an HR person. I've got a big team now. What do I do? Yeah. And these are all growing pains that our company had to go through. So that's kind of where the whole nucleus of premium coaching came from. And so now we're doing this monthly call where we're having basically a little mastermind with our clients of like, what are you doing? What's going on with your life? What's going on with your business? Here's a topic. And the one for today, we're talking about AI and how a lot of people are scared about it, but if used the right way, we've already seen the improvement it can make and help make life easy for the employees who have to do certain tasks. So that's going to be in the big call. But enough of that. Let's get into some of these questions that we're taking from the YouTube and from our social media accounts.
Yeah. And you're right. Ari he molded the premium coaching and the content that goes into it by his own experiences, his failures, his everything. Because, I think I tell the staff, I've told them probably 100 times that I learned the most from my failures.
Yeah,
that's the lessons that I've learned in business, in life in general. So it doesn't matter. So one of the questions, so last week we had a video that Ari did on why you should use business credit, right? Why should you use business credit? Well, let's tell you why. But the question that came in was, is it all based on credit cards? Then when time comes to repay, the interests are really high. So there's two questions there. So yes, the main thing that we do is business credit. It is what we call credit card stacking. And it is credit cards that are for your business. There's a lot of benefit to them. If you want the full thing, go watch the video from last week. Ari does a lot better explanation than I do. So it is that. But when it comes time to repaying them and the interest rate, so like anything else, you have to plan it the way it's going to work for your business. So I always refer to like the old school Amex when you had to pay it off every month. It wasn't revolving.
Right, yeah.
So there's that model that you can use where you're using it and paying it before the interest hits. That's something that even personally I try to do for my personal credit cards. But there's also ways that we teach you within it to do things to keep that interest from being minimal. But then in the long run, when you use the business credit cards, and even when you're paying the interest, you're still probably paying less.
Yeah.
Almost always. I shouldn't say probably. Almost always paying less than those hard money loans.
Oh,
those,
100%.
Yeah. And I'm not saying those hard money loans are bad for people. There's plenty of people that works for. I'm not saying that Ari's never used one. I'm not trying to knock anybody. What I'm saying is that there are other options. And, we use a form of funding that's pretty safe, pretty easy to use, and we try to get the minimal interest. I mean, you can't get zero interest forever because then the banks aren't making any money. Come on, that's not how it works.
Right. And I remember, and I think kind of along the same lines as this question, so from account management and our negotiators who talk to the banks and all that, once the 0% are over, the interest rate is about average. It's about like your normal low average kind of interest rate for a credit card. But I think the kind of catalyst of this question is I remember this was probably like 5-6 years ago when GameStop had a credit card. That was when like some of the big consoles were coming out.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you can just throw it on this new store credit card. And the interest rate was like 27%. And it's like you're going to be in interest alone paying like 4 times the amount of money for this, like, you know, you bought a Nintendo Wii or whatever it was. These are not that. We're not looking at that in terms of, you know, trying to get businesses funding. The interest rates are about average to normal credit cards. But as Amanda pointed out, compared to some of the alternative funding options out there, it's like night and day. Because especially hard money, other types of loans, they can be either crazy expensive on interest, or they're asking for like huge collateral, or you're giving up like equity in your company just to get in the door.
That Shark Tank model.
Yeah, exactly. So the business credit we're going for, yes, that is our main focus, but the interest rates after the fact are pretty comparable. And I love how you put it, you just have to plan ahead in terms of, okay, the 0% for 6 months. That means I need to have some kind of plan or make peace with paying interest in 6 months. That's all it means. Is it's just like, hey, the introductory offer, the bank wants you to spend this money, great. It's not, you didn't rob a bank. This is how credit works.
Yeah. There's fees on everything.
Yeah, exactly. But at least it's a better option, and it's a lot stronger option than a lot of other, you know, funding opportunities out there for businesses.
Right. And I think the one thing that I always remind people is that when you get business credit on a credit card like we do versus that like hard money loan that you get the money, is you're only going to pay if you use it. Whereas some of the like lines of credit are a little bit different, but when you're getting these actual money loans for businesses, they're handing you that $50,000 and you have to pay it back right now. Right now. You got to start paying back. Whereas business credit, you're only, if you use it, then you have to pay it. If you don't, it's just sitting there on reserve, ready for you to do.
How many times have we heard stories of people getting, you know, other kinds of loans, and they end up paying the loan back with the loan itself?
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
Know, like they're making the monthly payment with the loan,
Yeah.
And it's like that's not what that's supposed to be for. You know,
No.
It's supposed to be growing your business with it.
Exactly. So one of the Facebook comments actually was on a short. I think it's on your side of the biz and corp credit conversation that we had. I think that was this Wednesday, right? This past Wednesday. So asking about even new corps less than 12 months old. So, you know, yes, we can help new businesses, startups. We can do sole props, which is just basically you're doing your trade if you're a landscaper, an electrician, and you don't have a business open, but you're doing it anyways with your name. You're doing it all right. You just don't have that LLC or that Inc. In the back of it. So yes, we can. We do if it's a business. We do need to be 6 months old, but that's why we have the sole prop side. But again, I think we've went over this a couple times on the master class and stuff, is that the more seasoned the business, the better the result. So, you know, that's one of those things. But when you're a sole prop just starting out, you can't get a hard money loan typically.
Right. No, absolutely not.
You a lot of them are getting like, you need like certain amount of cash flow every single month. You got to be able to prove it. You got to do all these things. Whereas this is that easier, safer way to do it. And yes, we can absolutely do it with less than 12 months in your business. 6 months is all we need for a business. And if you're not there, we do the sole prop first. Then by the time you get to that second round, because remember, we're stacking, you're able to use the business because now you've had enough time. So, and you've shown the bank that you're good with business.
So, perfect segue. We actually just got a question in the chat. Mr. Thomas Smith asked, how much do you have to use in round 1 to maximize round 2? First of all, great philosophy going into that, because going in proactively with using the credit, always a better call. There's not a hard number necessarily. It's not, you know, if you got $50,000 in the first batch, it's not, well, if you don't use $45,900, then the banks are going to hate you. The idea is, if you don't necessarily have a project that's taking up the funding right here, right now, just utilizing the funding in general. Anything you're charging, you're making aggressive payments to in that downtime before the second batch.
Yep.
That's all behavior the banks want to see. What they don't want to see is they don't want to see, hey, the banks gave you X amount of money, you ran off to Vegas, you blew all the money, and you're only going to make minimum payments until, you know, you're in your grave. The banks don't want to see that. They want to know that you are, you know, an entrepreneur that's moving and making things happen, not just, hey, free money. So there's not a hard number that you have to spend on the first batch in order to get the best results in the second. The idea is this is the perfect platform to showcase the banks, hey, this isn't my first rodeo. I know what I'm doing. I've got uses for this credit, but I'm not living off the credit. If you show that kind of behavior, that is one less thing that the banks are going to be worried about when you come back around for round two.
Yeah, and we make sure that you know all that when you go in. Like our negotiators, account managers, they will tell you all those rules as you go, or the best recommendations how to get the best funding. So we definitely see that. I know we're about to wrap up. So I want to say that this is the first one. You know, obviously we want to develop this and give you the content you want. So if you're watching this on replay, or if you're just haven't got a chance to write a question or comment right now, please comment after the fact. That's fine. We want to see what you want to talk about next month. So I want to hear from everybody, like, what do you want us to talk about? What's happening? I'm going to close with a new piece of information that I learned yesterday for a lot of businesses that might care. Is the FTC is actually playing with a proposed rule that will get rid of non-competes for employees that they sign. So that could be a huge game changer for a lot of business owners. It hasn't happened yet. It's just in that, like, they're working on it. It's the rules. There is already publications out on the FTC website about it. I read up on it yesterday. So if you use a non-compete within your model for your employees, you may want to check that out. It's something that if it happens, it could be a game changer for certain pieces, and you're gonna have to rework your whole agreements. You're gonna have to look at all of that, and internally, you know, we have to see, does that affect us at all? So I'm always looking at that piece. So, you know, if you want to check that out on the FTC website, it is up. Right now, we're going to be ending here on this side, but we're going to be jumping right into our private coaching call, which starts at 3:30. So we're going to jump right into the coaching call. We're going to dive into those topics for this month. If you're not part of the premium coaching and you want to check out to see what it is, there is a link in the description that gives you kind of a whole run through of what we do with that, and see if you're interested. There's also the link for what Fund&Grow does if you're not aware. So I think that's it. I think we're good for today. We're going to sign off. Zach and I are super happy that you joined us. And again, put some thoughts in the comments if you want us to talk about something specific next month, and we're more than happy to do it.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you in the next video.